Hello, my name is Bryce Roney, and I am going to teach y'all how to play Strand Titan, or at least how I play Strand Titan. I feel like Strand Titan is legitimately underrated. I think I can say that more than something like Solar Titan or Solo Stasis Titan. I think it has a lot to offer. It's not extremely exotic dependent like Solar or Stasis is. I'm using a pretty general exotic for this. There's a couple options you can run with as well. But I think the kit by itself has a lot of potential and a pretty simple loop, but it requires, in fact, a couple more actions per minute and thought put forth in your kills and your gameplay, more so than stuff like Arc Titan or Void Titan. Now, this class isn't going to give you a huge advantage over these extremely meta Shift W classes, but it's going to give you options that do counter it and play extremely well against it. So starting off, we're going to talk about my build within the subclass. So Towering Barricade's pretty obvious. I prefer whatever jump you want, doesn't matter. Frenzy Blade's a big part of this because it plays into Flechette Storm, which I'll get to in a second. Frenzy Blade's very, very nice. It has that instant button press movement. The recent buff to it has given it a faster charge after every instance of your melee, so after the first charge is full, your second one charges faster, your third one charges faster after that. Grapple Melee is how I like to run the class. I think it gives you a lot more options, and it gives you more melee kill potential, which is huge for this subclass, and the way I build it. You could use Shackle and Abeyant on different builds. Grapple is really helpful for this variation. Flechette Storm is a very unique and complex melee. It gives you the option to have the slide knockback feature. It gives you the option to have a ranged mix-up option. It gives you the ability to engage in a shotgun fight, back off, and launch a quick volley. Quickly follow up with shots to try and disrupt any charging combatants with shotguns, fusions, SMGs. It's a very good mix-up. It has an inherent 25% DR attributed to it. From bullets only, and that does in fact stack with Woven Mail. It actually can take, I think I saw 5 120 body shots mixed in, and only take about maybe half health, so it's a very potent option. Not many people understand how it functions. There's been some content creators that have claimed it's one of the worst abilities in the game, and it shows a fundamental misunderstanding for the ability. I will say that it definitely requires more thought, and that is difficult when it's difficult to sell when the foremost Titan class is quite literally just press melee when you hit somebody and broken their shields. The follow-up to this, which I think is a huge part of this class, is Into the Fray, which gives me Woven Mail on destroying a Tangle, which also gives me a higher melee regeneration, which is fantastic for Flechette and Frenzy. Abeyant and Drangers is an alternative build to Strand Titan. I think paired with Into the Fray is a good alternate way to play the class, but in my eyes it's a little slower, it's a lot more campy in the way how you have to play. You have to wait for people to come to you. I'm not going to knock it, I prefer this way. What I'm running through my threads are Thread of Transmutation. While you have Woven Mail, anytime you get a kill with a weapon, it creates a Tangle. Tangles give me Woven. Woven Mail gives me the ability to create more Tangles. When I pick up an Orb of Light, I get Woven Mail. Woven Mail, with weapons, gives me a Tangle, which gives me Woven Mail. Third Regeneration gives me more Grenade Energy. Pretty straightforward. This one's nothing too complex. Grapple has a very low cooldown. I run low Discipline paired with this. Paired with the arm mod for impact induction, gives me a lot of grenade energy uptime. This is just a fantastic option because if I get a kill with a grapple, if I get a kill with Flechette Storm, if I get a kill with Frenzy Blade, with Heavy Handed, I spawn an orb. And what does an orb do? It gives me Woven. And what does Woven do? It lets me create Tangles. And what do Tangles do? It gives me more Woven and melee regeneration, which then goes back into my melee options. And that's wonderful. This is nice. The super is incredibly nice as well. As it's a roaming super, so they're a little bit less valuable in PvP and 3 specifically. I like to run higher intellect because of that. If you don't run a medium to medium high intellect, you won't get your super in 3s, which is kind of a pain. I run it this way, that way I actually have the opportunity and the chance to get that round-winning, round-altering super. This also allows me sometimes to get 2 in 1 control match if I'm really slaying out. The mandatory things I think for the stats on this are 100 Resil, you're a Titan, you gotta, and then 100 Strength. You can play these as you want. I found that this combination does me well. If you wanted to get more into the nitty-gritty, you could probably switch Intellect for Discipline and have higher Discipline for higher grenades in something like Control. Totally up to you. This is how I like to run this class. So, for the mods, I like to have this setup. Helmet can be whatever you want. Arms, the mandatory thing here, I believe, is heavy-handed. I use impact induction, which gives melee energy, gives grenade energy on melee hits. I think that's pretty big for that grapple grenade cooldown. Totally up to you. Heavy-handed, though, is kind of the mandatory on here. Still allows you to use dexterity, a loader, whatever it is, for your special weapons. Boots. Recuperation's huge because this class does inherently lack healing by itself. Woven Mail is very nice, it gives you that DR. So picking up an orb that gives you the Woven and health, very nice combination. It gives you a little bolster of defenses in the thick of things, especially when you're meleeing. Invigoration is what I like to do, obviously more melee, so you can run that for grenades, class ability, you could do better already, so it's even more healing, up to y'all. Reaper is big for this as well. Pop the barricade, get an orb, and what does an orb do? Gets you Woven. What does Woven do? Gets you Tangles. What does Tangles do? Gets you melee, and so on, so on, so on. Chest, pretty open-ended. Do what you want. The main build I run when playing this looks something like this if I'm trying to sweat. And I can switch it out for a pulse, I can switch it out for an auto, I've got some other options here. This is kind of the sweaty option. The shotgun into the knockback of Flechette is very nice. I don't have the ammo, but what it allows you to do is you can slide, shot, and then knockback. Slide, shot, knockback. And it's very nice because you can actually get off some pretty long distance silly kills, as these things, hi bud, have pretty good range. Another alternative build that I like to run that's a little off meta, but it has a very simple loop tied into the subclass is Sturm and Drang with Swash. Swash for obvious reasons. Swash enhanced for even more obvious reasons. If I get the melee off, I get Swashbuckler times 5. If I get a kill Swashbuckler times 5, it loads in the Sturm. Sturm gets me the 2-tap chunky damage with the overcharged shot. Very nice combination. This is going to look great for next season with the 90 range, because that's going to be an extremely far out distance for a 120 next season. I would look into using this. This is going to be, I think, a pretty good setup regardless of whatever this subclass looks like. Something else I like to do, which is a little more niche but goofy, is a Navigator Drang combination. Trace rifles themselves are very mediocre in the meta currently, as they are basically just a 720 auto rifle with a marginally better TTK and way worse ammo economy. The Navigator, though, does offer 2 alternate ways to play, and I think that's fantastic. It gives me Woven Mail on shooting my teammate. I could basically be Mercy from Overwatch and just give them Woven, and I believe it gives them like a 30 or 40 health buff as well. Just a quick little puff of health for them. Woven Mail, I get Woven on top of that. Woven gives me more melee energy. So it's a really nice thing to have and thing to think about in the thick of battle if I'm low on melee energy, or if me and a teammate are in a tough spot. Alternatively, I can fire off the Gordian Knot, which allows me to create a grapple tangle point that allows me to refund my grapple. In Control, this can be fun for some quick getaways, pre-setting up your spots for knowing when an enemy's going to push, for on top of a flag, choke points. It gives you some alternative ways to move around the map. Hunters have a lot of access to this. This is a way to access it on Titan. Something I like to do in 3s with this, especially in trials, is pop that over the flag so that if need be, I can act on a pick quickly, I can get back to sight quickly, I can just maneuver around and create issues for the enemy quickly. It's a really nice trace rifle, and that's saying a lot because trace rifles are not great. And then of course Drang for the obvious secondary choice, the swash choice. Alright, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the class and how I play the class. Now I'd like to talk about some of the exotic options that you can run while running Strand Titan. The default for me, and I think the best optimal choice, is going to be One-Eyed Mask because the class lacks healing. This is great because through Flechette Storm, through your melees, through your grapple melees, through pretty much everything you do, you're going to get heals and overshields. With this, that stacks nicely with your Woven and with your DR from the animation of casting Flechette Storm. Something else that functions pretty well with the Immortal, with Rufus, with Round Robin, with Navigator is Precious Scars. This is a good choice for 3s as it gives overshields, and that can stack with your Woven Mail. Synthoceps is a good neutral exotic. It does have some neat benefits when you grapple melee into a cluster of enemies, because the grapple melee does benefit from Synthoceps. HDO Feedback Fence has a unique interaction with Flechette Storm, as one melee swipe will proc ×3 Fury Conductor. This one was hard for me though, as I found myself often throwing myself needlessly into groups of enemies to try and get that goofy feedback kill. Something else you can run is Servant's Enclosure. This one really is more fun for something like Mayhem. It does have its uses. It will, I believe, destroy tangles that are close by. So if you do happen to get a kill and then get a melee kill around a tangle, you will not only get the explosion, but you'll get the tangle damage as well. It's pretty funny to watch. Heart of Inmost Light works very well with the Navigator, as you can abuse the grapple point and just proc it over and over and over again, get your melees recharging, get them more damage. It's not a huge increase, but it's good regen. Crest of Umphalupi in practice is not as useful as it could be, but the healing on top of the extra woven shenanigans you can do is nice. And Tejas Wards is something that I've toyed around with, but it's something that I'm envisioning will get changed in the future, and I don't want to connect myself to an exotic that I know will be getting changed or nerfed in the future, as it will create bad habits for me playing around it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love this class, I love talking about it. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me, feel free to comment, and I'll see you out there in the Crucible.